Among the executive orders by President Trump, he's proposed tariffs as high as 60% for goods imported from China, as well as increases for goods coming from Canada and Mexico. Let's discuss the potential impact by welcoming Professor Gustavo Flores-Macías at Cornell University. Thanks for being with us, Professor.
Good morning, Asia. Thank you for having me.
Of course, Mr. Trump signed an executive order directing various agencies to study a variety of trade issues, but didn't impose any new levies immediately, as previously threatened. What do you make of that move?
Well, it was a bit surprising given the barrage of executive orders that were signed yesterday. I think most people thought that these tariffs would be part of that first wave. But President Trump made it clear that it will be coming up. I think February 1st is the date that he established, or he set, to really adopt at least the first set of tariffs against Mexico and Canada. There are others that he has floated in the past, certainly across-the-board tariffs for all countries, but Mexico, Canada, and China are the ones that have been singled out for now.
The president says tariffs will benefit U.S. manufacturing and raise revenue to help pay for tax cuts. How could they act as a source of leverage in negotiations with other countries?
I think that's a key question, whether these tariffs are mostly a form of leverage or whether they really are an end of themselves. If it's leverage, I think it will be an important tool for President Trump to extract concessions from other countries. And we saw this during the first Trump administration with NAFTA, for example, that renegotiation that took place. There was a real threat that the United States would pull out of NAFTA altogether, and the adoption of tariffs as a result of that pulling out would have resulted in very important economic consequences, negative consequences for Mexico and Canada. I think President Trump is looking to do the same this time around, and it'll be interesting to see whether he follows through on that threat.
What practical effect might tariffs have on the average consumer?
Well, President Trump, I think, was elected on one of the main promises was to bring inflation down. And unfortunately, tariffs are likely to contribute to the opposite in the sense that they make goods more expensive for consumers in the U.S., even though it's true that at first they seem as a tax on other countries. But over time, what we see is that the price of those goods in the U.S. tends to increase. And because of the protection that is granted to industry in the U.S., to these firms that are making those products, the quality of those products also tends to suffer. So in the long term, I think the likely outcome of tariffs, if they're not reined in or interrupted at some point, is contributing to inflation, which should be concerning for the Trump team.
Okay, Professor Gustavo Flores-Macías at Cornell, thank you for your time this morning and your expertise.
Thank you for having me.